Peace and blessings, welcome back. Today we're talking about what is a soul. The 29th verse of the Gospel of Thomas says, Jesus said, if the flesh come into being because of spirit, it is a wonder. Alright, if spirit made flesh, it is a wonder, right? But if spirit come into being because of the body, it is a wonder of wonders. Okay, if your body made spirit, then it is a wonder of wonders, right? It is even more great. Indeed, I am amazed at how this great wealth has made its home in this poverty. Jesus is reminding you how great your spirit is, how wealthy your spirit is compared to your body. All right, the definition of spirit is a particular way of thinking, feeling, or behaving. All right, so the way you're thinking, your body doesn't think on its own. The way you're feeling, your actions, what you're doing, that is way more valuable than your body. Right, you're on this channel, you're seeking ascension, you're trying to figure out the wonders of the world, you're trying to figure out yourself, God, nature, things like that, right? So your spirit is in a good state. It's in a state of evolution and learning and growing, right? Trying to be more divine. All your body really does is try to eat and drink and procreate. All right, your spirit can try to learn, try to experience new things. All right, that is a philosophy, though, that you should take with you. That's a philosophy that Jesus was teaching. Did the spirits create the flesh, or did the flesh create the spirits? Truly, we can make spirits. We're strong enough to make spirits. A lot of people don't realize that. They took the Gospel of Thomas out the Bible and stuff. Genesis 2:7. Then the Lord formed men from the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and the man became a living being. Okay, before breath was in the body was not considered living. According to the Bible, the breath provides life. You stop breathing, your soul leaves your body, right? So you're alive until you take your last breath. Life is the period between birth and death. But many of us know, who've experienced many incarnations and reincarnations, know there is a period between life and death that you can still exist in. This is a state where you have no body, you have no breath, right? But you still have spirit, you're still a soul. So the breath, which is life, is, right? That is the breath, that's the gift of God, that's the gift of life. You get what I mean? That is truly God's name. A lot of people wonder what God's name is. It's, you get what I mean? It doesn't matter what language you speak, you make that noise. But yeah, that's not funny, I'm sorry. But it doesn't matter what language you speak. I just don't understand how people don't get that. But I understand, no one's taught us anything, you get what I mean? But, that's God's name. That's the breath of life that he gave you. That's one way you can regulate your soul, your spirit, your mind, your psyche. Deep breathing techniques and things like that. Just saying God's name, truly. Just keeps trying to stay alive, keep breathing. Right? Recognize how powerful God's name is. The definition of a soul: the spiritual or immaterial part of a human being or animal regarded as immortal, emotional or intellectual energy or intensity, especially as revealed in a work of art or artistic performance. All right, your soul is immaterial, your soul is immortal, right? Your body will pass on, you get what I mean? Your spirit may change, right? The way you think, your ideas, your beliefs, your actions may change, your spirit may change, but your soul is the accumulation, all right, of all your energy. Your soul is an accumulation of all your lifetimes, all your incarnations, right? Your soul is even more valuable than your spirit. Your soul has a lot to do with the water element. It has a lot to do with emotions. Your soul has more to do with water, right? Your spirit has more to do with fire. Okay, the breath of life has more to do with air, right? Your body has more to do with earth. Okay, that's how the four elements come together to make you. But these are really higher forms of the elements. The elements are very basic, you get what I mean, compared to us, compared to our souls and our spirits, our bodies, our minds, our experiences. God created these things. Your spirit also has to do more with your highest energy, your peak energy. When you speak of the spirit of something, you're really speaking about it in its highest state. You don't speak on the Spirit and speak on it lowly. When we say the Spirit of God, or the Spirit of Jesus, or the Spirit of Buddha, or the Spirit of Vishnu, or the Spirit of Krishna, right? Or the Spirit of Muhammad, you get what I mean? Or the Spirit of your mom, the Spirit of your dad, right? We're speaking on them very highly, right? High spirits, right? Highly spirited. But our souls know, and their souls know. Things can go up and down, right? There's been bad days, Everyone's been depressed before. Everyone's been agitated before. You get what I mean? So when you're speaking on their soul, you're going very deep. You get what I mean? You're not being judgmental. You're just going deep. You get what I mean? To the root. But when you're talking about the spirit, you're more talking about the face, right? To talking about the spirit, you're talking about the face. You're talking about the soul. You're really talking about the feet, right? That's why they call it the soles of your feet. You're talking about your roots. You're talking about, a more grounded version of reality. When you're talking about life, you're really talking about it in a collective way. We're all experiencing life, right? But you may not be experiencing the spirits I'm experiencing. You may not be experiencing my own spirit. You're not experiencing my soul, right? You have your own soul. You have your own body, right? We could be working with the same spirits. We could not be, right? But life is life, you get what I mean? The breath really connects all of us, you get what I mean? Right? Some spirits may be too different from you. You may not be aligned with them. You may not want to work with certain spirits versus others, right? Some bodies you may find more attractive or more magnetic, you know what I mean? The culture behind the body, maybe you like their food more, or you like that location more, or you like those customs more. You get what I mean? That has to do with the body, right? Your lineage, you get what I mean? Do you come from family members that pray? Do you come from family members that meditate? Do you come from family members that believe in this spirit or that spirit, or they treat their souls this way? They have those ideas about the soul, right? So all these things can change and we can customize them, you get what I mean? They're not the same for everyone, but the breath is the same for everyone. So the soul really is a accumulation, of all your breaths, not just the good breaths like the spirit, not just the bad breaths, you get what I mean? Not just the good days, not just the bad days, right? It's not just your body, you get what I mean? It's not just how your family sees you, you get what I mean? It's a more of an internal thing. The soul is more internal, right? Your spirit, a lot of people can see your spirit on your face, your facial expressions, your emotions. Some people are better at hiding their emotions than others, but, a lot of times it's fire, so it's a very bright light. You get what I mean? A lot of people can see it, you can't hide that from a lot of people. Very few people can see your soul, you get what I mean? It takes being very close to that person, like your souls really know each other. Your souls have known each other for many incarnations. For you to see someone's soul, for them to see your soul, you get what I mean? For you guys to let that guard down, that means you guys have known each other for many lifetimes. You guys have probably gone to war together. You guys have probably been married to each other. You guys have probably been parents or fathers to each other, or cousins, you get what I mean? You guys have experienced life together before, maybe even more than once, maybe more than twice. So someone can see your emotions, right? But they won't be able to see what you're thinking about. Someone may be able to see your emotions, but they can't see what you've been through, right? Unless they're really tapped into you on a very spiritual level, on a very soul level. You get what I mean? Most people aren't, you'll find less than 1% of people will be connected to you like this. But if you want to connect with your soul more, try to connect back with your body more. Your soul runs through your whole body. All right, your soul isn't your body, but it runs through your whole body. All right, so connecting with the body more is connecting back with the soul. You get what I mean? Start working out, start doing sports, start meditating, start doing yoga, just start going for walks even. You get what I mean? Start running. That will help you connect with your soul. Also, the music you're listening to, you get what I mean? Start listening to more soul music. They literally made a whole genre of music dedicated for your soul. You get what I mean? Even if it's only like 10 or 15 minutes a day, you get what I mean? While you're on the way to work or while you're showering or something, you get what I mean? While you're reading or something, you get what I mean? Start listening to some good soul music, you feel me? That'll help clear your soul, help clear your spirit. Your spirit, your soul, your mind, your body, your breath is all truly connected. You get what I mean? So start, working on them individually. It'll help all of them. Even me personally, I'm mostly listening to like rock or like rap. You get what I mean? But I know, that music really is damaging to your soul. It's not helping your soul. It may help your spirit. You may want to be in a fiery spirit, right? You may want to be energetic. You get what I mean? You may want to feel like fearless and strong. You get what I mean? Powerful. listen to rock and rap, right? That helps your spirit. You know, your spirit doesn't mind, but your soul would like some softness to it. You know, that's just what it is. Your soul like a more clear water, right? You don't want to burn up all your water, right? You don't want to pour oil in your water. You want your water to be clear. You know, so even just like 10-15 minutes a day will really help you. You know, meditate, even if just 5 minutes a day. Listen to some soul music, some jazz music, you know, good for your soul. 5, 10, 15 minutes a day will help you. But you'll find, you know, everyone's different, right? We all take this gift from God differently. You know, like me personally, like I just said, I live in my spirit more. You know, I'm very high spirited. I live in my spirit about 99% of the time. But there's other people who live in their soul 99% of the time. You get what I mean? There's other people who live in their bodies 99% of the time, like bodybuilders and like people go to the gym every day. They're living in their body, right? Like me, I'm always thinking of new ideas. I'm also always talking to different spirits. You get what I'm saying? I live in a very spiritual realm, right? I'm trying to be a spirit teacher, right? I'm a spirit teacher. You know, I live in my spirit a lot, but I understand, you know, we have to live in all of our aspects. You get what I mean? All of our aspects have to be aligned. You know, so start living in your body more. Start living in your spirit more. Start living in your soul more. Right? Recognize which one you're doing the most. You know, don't neglect another part of yourself. That's really what this is about. Just don't neglect any part of yourself. You know, you haven't been working out. You haven't been eating right. Right? You haven't been getting any sun. You get what I mean? You're neglecting your body. You know, you haven't been listening to good music. You haven't been treating yourself. You haven't been in good environments. You get what I mean? You're neglecting your soul. You haven't been connecting with your higher self, right? You haven't been connecting to God. You haven't been connecting to your ancestors, your spirit guides, your angels, stuff like that. You're neglecting your spirit. You know what I mean? So, right, come together, you feel me? Make a better, more complete being, a better, more complete version of you. You know, there's nothing wrong with switching up, changing up. You get what I mean? But that's that power of God, right? That's been the same since the day we've been born. You know, it's really been the same. You know, your soul is making new experiences, you feel me, every day. Your spirit may feel differently every day, you get what I mean? But life is life, you get what I mean? Really just reminding you, you know, enjoy life. But peace and blessings. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Till next time.